Have you ever felt the burning urge to confront someone who disrespected you, only to realize later that your silence spoke volumes more than any words could? What if the most devastating response isn't what you say, but what you suddenly stop giving? Imagine the profound impact when someone who took your presence for granted suddenly finds themselves facing nothing but the echo of their own actions. When someone disrespects you, the immediate impulse to confront them can feel overwhelming. Your heart races, your mind floods with perfect comebacks, and you desperately want to make them understand how deeply their actions hurt you. Perhaps you even fantasize about teaching them a lesson they'll never forget. But what if the most powerful move isn't found in what you say, but rather in what you deliberately take away? This is where silence transforms into your greatest weapon. When you strategically withdraw access to your time, energy, and presence, you communicate a message that resonates far deeper than any verbal confrontation ever could. The beauty of this approach lies in its quiet dignity. You don't need to raise your voice to make an impact that lasts. People who disrespect you often do so because they operate under a dangerous assumption. They believe you'll always be there. They've grown comfortable taking your availability for granted, convinced that your kindness, patience, or attachment will keep you orbiting in their universe regardless of how they treat you. They've mistaken your generosity for weakness, your forgiveness for permission. But everything changes when you stop answering their calls, when you cease replying to their messages, when you no longer appear in the spaces they've grown accustomed to seeing you. This absence creates a silence they weren't prepared for, a void where your predictable presence used to be. Suddenly, they find themselves talking to an echo, desperately trying to decipher what went wrong. It's within this confusion that the seeds of regret begin to take root. There's a unique kind of discomfort that comes from being shut out without explanation. A special type of psychological tension that forces a person to sit alone with their own behavior. They stop to retrace their steps, mentally reviewing each interaction, wondering which moment finally tipped the balance, which careless word, which faultless action, which disrespectful gesture became the final straw. This internal reflection proves far more effective than any heated argument you could have initiated. Why? Because it compels them to confront themselves. Your absence becomes a mirror reflecting their actions back at them with crystal clarity. No defenses, no justifications, just the stark reality of consequences. Withdrawing access isn't about being passive or avoidant. It's about choosing peace over pointless confrontation. It represents the profound realization that your time and energy are precious resources, too valuable to invest in someone who consistently fails to recognize your worth. You're not punishing him, you're protecting yourself. And remarkably, the more you focus on cultivating your own sacred space, the more powerful you become in their perception. Initially, they might dismiss your distance as temporary, a passing mood or minor upset. They might confidently assume you'll return to the familiar pattern, just as you've done before. But as days transform into weeks and the silence grows increasingly heavy, something shifts. They notice your energy no longer revolves around them. They glimpse your glow returning, your focus sharpening, your spirit brightening in your newfound freedom. That's when the reality hits them with full force. They've lost access to you. Not because you created a dramatic scene, but because you made a deliberate decision valuing your dignity above all else. You didn't need to slam a door to make someone feel its weight. You simply closed it quietly and walked away with your head held high. When you choose this path, you leave them with something far more haunting than anger, the sound of nothing. And within that profound silence, they begin to truly understand what they've lost, not because you told them directly, but because they can finally see the value of what they never properly appreciated until it vanished from their grasp. There's something incredibly powerful about transforming in silence. When you begin to level up without broadcasting every step of your journey, you fundamentally shift the energy around you, while others anxiously watch for a reaction, waiting to see if you'll break down, lash out, or come crawling back. You're quietly building something meaningful behind the scenes. Nothing creates more profound regret in someone who disrespected you than the sudden realization that they severely underestimated your strength. Only to witness you rise magnificently without ever acknowledging their existence, you become living proof that their opinion was never the determining factor in your story. The mistake many people make is assuming personal growth requires public announcement. They believe success only becomes real when it's posted, spoken about, or externally validated. But authentic growth doesn't demand attention. It simply unfolds naturally, day by day, choice by choice. When you begin to level up mentally, emotionally, financially, or spiritually without making noise about it, you gain a powerful edge. You become beautifully unpredictable. They can no longer anticipate your moves. And that mystery becomes intensely intimidating. While they remain trapped in the same cycles, gossiping, doubting, or attempting to provoke you, you're shifting into higher gears. You're investing in yourself, expanding your knowledge, moving differently through the world, and consistently choosing your peace over petty confrontations. Suddenly, they notice you're not responding as you once did. You're not explaining yourself. You're not attending every argument you're invited to join. That's what compels people to take a second look. Not your words, but your evident evolution. And here's the beautiful truth. You don't need to actively seek revenge. Your personal growth becomes the message itself. It silently communicates, "You never broke me. You simply reminded me who I truly am." Every silent step you take toward your purpose, every goal you accomplish without their knowledge, every inner battle you win, all become chapters in a story they never saw coming. They assumed you'd remain stuck. They thought you needed their validation. They believed their disrespect would permanently define your self-image, but your dignified silence proved otherwise. Over time, they inevitably begin to see it, perhaps through mutual friends, maybe in a photograph that crosses their path, or possibly just in the transformed way your energy fills a room when you enter it. But they notice the change, and when they do, the regret sinks deep into their consciousness, not because you flaunted your success in their face, but precisely because you never needed to. The version of you they attempted to diminish no longer exists. You've evolved far beyond the point of explanation. This represents the quiet form of karma, not loud, not angry, just steady, intentional growth. Let them observe from a distance. Let them wonder how you managed such a transformation. The truth is, you didn't level up to prove anything to anyone. You did it for yourself. But the fact that your growth simultaneously silences their disrespect, that's simply a well-deserved bonus. Maintaining calm composure when faced with disrespect represents one of the most powerful responses available to you. It's not weakness, it's the ultimate form of control. When someone disrespects you, they typically anticipate an emotional reaction. They want to see you angry, hear your voice rise, watch you argue back defensively. They crave the satisfaction of seeing you lose your composure because your emotional reaction gives them a sense of power. But when you remain composed, when you deliberately choose silence over shouting and inner peace over chaos, you completely transform the dynamic. You deny them the satisfaction of witnessing you unravel. This composure isn't about suppressing your authentic feelings. It's about mastering them. It's choosing not to allow someone else's lack of respect to pull you out of character. It's knowing your worth so deeply and completely that you feel no need to justify or explain it to anyone. This kind of self-possession is remarkably rare, and it leaves an indelible impression. The person who attempted to provoke you ends up feeling confused, even unsettled, because they can't understand why you're not reacting according to their expectations. When you maintain your cool, you demonstrate something powerful. They don't control your emotions. You do, and that realization is what ultimately creates their regret. Disrespectful people thrive on chaos. They feed off drama, loud responses, and tension. But when you offer them nothing but silence or a composed response they never anticipated, they're left sitting alone with their behavior, without your emotional reaction to distract them from their own actions. They begin to see how truly out of line they were. Remaining calm also protects your precious energy. Not every battle deserves your participation, and not every comment merits your attention. Sometimes the most powerful response is to continue living your life as though their words or actions carried no significance whatsoever. Because the truth is, if something doesn't disturb your inner peace, it doesn't deserve your energy, and in that silence, they begin to feel the sting of being irrelevant to your emotional world. There exists a strength in calmness that speaks infinitely louder than any argument ever could. It clearly communicates, "You don't possess the power to disrupt my inner world." That message hits harder than yelling ever will. Over time, they notice. They realize you didn't just walk away. You walked away without needing to create a scene. And that kind of exit, filled with dignity and grace, becomes unforgettable. So the next time someone attempts to bring chaos to your doorstep, stay grounded, keep your voice steady, maintain a still expression, allow him to feel the full weight of their actions without giving him the emotional reaction they're desperately seeking. In your stillness, they'll hear everything they need to, and they'll regret ever believing they had the power to disturb your hard-won peace. One of the most powerful expressions of self-respect is establishing clear boundaries without feeling compelled to explain them. When someone crosses the line with you, Your first instinct might be to justify why their behavior hurt you or to help them understand your personal limits. But as we'll explore in the next section, there's immense strength in knowing that your boundaries don't require external validation or understanding to be legitimate. As we've seen, setting boundaries without explanation is one of the most powerful forms of self-respect. When you establish these limits silently but firmly, you demonstrate the level of inner strength that speaks volumes without saying a word. True strength lies in enforcing your boundaries quietly, without begging for understanding, without over-explaining yourself, and without feeling guilty for protecting your peace. When you stop tolerating disrespect and do it with calm consistency, people inevitably notice, and often they come to regret taking your kindness for granted. The beauty is that you don't need dramatic gestures like slamming doors or raising your voice. All it takes is a subtle yet deliberate shift in your behavior. You begin by no longer replying to messages that drain your energy. You stop saying yes when your heart and mind are screaming no. You cease showing up for people who only remember your existence when they need something from you. At first, they might not even register what's happening. The change is too subtle, too dignified to trigger immediate awareness, but slowly, inexorably, the access they once took for granted begins to disappear from their lives. Not out of spite or vengeance, but out of something far more powerful, genuine self-respect. It's important to understand that boundaries aren't walls designed to isolate you from the world. They're sophisticated filters that allow in what nourishes your spirit while blocking out what depletes it. When you set boundaries unapologetically, you're not being cold or distant. You're being refreshingly clear, and clarity often makes certain people profoundly uncomfortable, especially those who have long benefited from your lack of it. These individuals gradually realize that they can no longer manipulate you, guilt-trip you into compliance, or cross your carefully drawn lines without facing consequences. That's precisely when regret begins to settle into their consciousness, not because you confronted them with harsh words, but because your silence and thoughtful distance communicate more eloquently than any speech ever could. You teach people how to treat you through three powerful mechanisms: what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce through your actions. The moment you begin protecting your energy instead of exhausting yourself trying to explain your inherent value, everything transforms. Those who disrespected you will feel your absence acutely in the spaces where they once enjoyed unrestricted access. This absence creates a vacuum that forces reflection. It compels them to question why they no longer receive the version of you that used to show up for everything and tolerate anything. The true power lies in understanding that you don't need to announce your boundaries with fanfare or explanation. You simply live by them with quiet confidence. When people cross these sacred lines, you don't waste energy arguing or adjusting to accommodate their disrespect. You protect your time, energy, and peace without compromise. This subtle but significant shift demonstrates a level of maturity, self-awareness, and inner strength that requires no external validation. Eventually, they'll recall how available you once were, how patient, how generous, how forgiving. they'll inevitably compare those memories to the thoughtful distance they experience now. That gap between who you were and who you've become will be filled with one predominant emotion: regret. Not because you fundamentally changed, but because you finally chose yourself after perhaps years of choosing everyone else first. There's a profound serenity in choosing not to seek revenge, not because you lack the capacity or courage, but because you understand something deeper about life's natural balance. You recognize that the universe has a way of settling scores far more effectively than you ever could. When someone disrespects you, the instinctive urge might be to get even, to demonstrate exactly how they've wronged you. But there's a quiet, dignified strength in stepping back and allowing karma to unfold naturally while you remain focused on your personal growth. This choice alone represents one of the most powerful moves you'll ever make. Why? Because revenge keeps you tethered to the very person who wounded you. It continuously drains your precious energy, clouds your vision of what's possible, and keeps your emotions trapped in past hurts. But when you release the need for retaliation and instead channel that energy into becoming an elevated version of yourself, you break free from that destructive cycle. You're no longer merely reacting, you're evolving. As you rise, the people who once disrespected you are forced to observe your transformation from the very place they attempted to leave you. That realization stings more deeply than any clever comeback or calculated action ever could. Karma doesn't require an audience or announcement. It works silently, precisely, and often materializes when people least expect its arrival, while they continue operating with the same mindset that enabled them to mistreat you. Life has a remarkable way of revealing consequences. These lessons may not manifest immediately, but they always arrive, often when the person is least prepared to face them. Meanwhile, you've moved forward, you've grown exponentially, you've constructed something beautiful from what they tried to break. That success, that inner peace, that unmistakable glow becomes your most eloquent response to their disrespect. There's immense dignity in choosing to continue your journey, especially when you know you could easily respond with sharp words or actions. True maturity means understanding that not everyone deserves a front row seat to witness your progress. You don't need to prove anything to those who doubted or disrespected you. Let them wonder how you managed to thrive without their presence. Let them hear about your achievements from a distance, through others. This mystery becomes an integral part of their regret. In choosing personal growth over revenge, you gift yourself something infinitely more valuable: peace. You no longer carry the heavy burden of resentment. You don't waste mental energy rehearsing what you'll say when karma finally catches up to them. You already understand intuitively that life handles what words cannot express. Every step you take forward in dignified silence serves as a powerful reminder of your strength. How far you've come, and how magnificently you've risen above the noise and chaos. So don't squander your precious energy attempting to make anyone regret their actions toward you. Simply continue moving forward, focused, grounded, and aligned with your authentic self. Sooner or later, they'll feel the weight of your absence and witness the brilliance of your growth. When that moment arrives, They'll regret ever believing they could diminish someone who was always destined to rise above. Sometimes the most powerful move you can make is to simply disappear from someone's life, not out of weakness, not from defeat, but from a position of strength and profound self-respect. When someone repeatedly disrespects you, they operate under the assumption that you'll remain accessible. They expect you to keep showing up, to continue granting them access to your life, to tolerate their behavior indefinitely. But when you choose to walk away quietly, to remove yourself from the equation without warning or drama, your absence communicates more powerfully than your presence ever could. In that meaningful silence, they begin to feel a loss they never anticipated was possible. Disappearing with dignity isn't about ghosting or engaging in petty games. It's about reclaiming your energy and peace. It signifies that you've reached a crucial turning point where you no longer see value in proving your worth to those who consistently fail to recognize it. You stop participating in meaningless conversations that go nowhere. You stop waiting for apologies that may never come. You stop trying to repair what you didn't break in the first place. Instead, you exit with grace. No dramatic scenes, no final parting words, no lengthy explanations. You're simply gone. This kind of disappearance leaves a lasting impression. Why? Because it forces people to sit alone with the consequences of their actions. It gives them nothing to argue against, no emotional reaction to fuel their ego, no drama to distract from the truth. You were there, and then you weren't. That void becomes their most profound lesson. They gradually realize that your presence in their life was never something they were entitled to. It was a gift, freely given, and they lost it through their own actions. As time passes, they might attempt to reach out, wondering why you pulled away, but by then, you've evolved into someone who no longer needs closure from the same people who caused the damage. You've healed, grown, and created a life where peace is the non-negotiable priority and disrespect has absolutely no place. Your disappearance wasn't designed to punish them. It was to protect yourself and your energy. What many fail to understand is that silence doesn't signify surrender. It often represents elevation to a higher plane of existence. When you walk away from relationships and situations that drain you, you create space for what truly uplifts and nourishes your spirit. Those who once disrespected you will observe from a distance as you thrive magnificently without their presence in your life. That realization hits harder than any argument, any clever comeback, any dramatic confrontation ever could. So when someone makes the critical mistake of underestimating you, disrespecting your loyalty, or taking your kindness for granted, don't waste energy explaining yourself. Don't fight for their attention or approval. Simply leave, and do it with such calm composure and grace that they can't stop thinking about it long after you're gone. They'll feel your absence in the silence, in the space you once occupied, in the dignity you carried when you walked away, and in that empty space, regret will quietly, inevitably settle in. If you found value in these insights about setting boundaries and protecting your peace, please consider subscribing to our channel. Each week, we share powerful strategies for personal growth, emotional intelligence, and building the life you deserve. Hit that subscribe button now and join our community of people committed to living with dignity and purpose. Remember, your peace is non-negotiable, and your growth is unstoppable. We'll see you in the next video.